Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Arirang News. It's 2 p.m. here in Seoul. I'm Laah Hyun-kyung. The stories we're following at this hour. A jetliner from Lufthansa's budget airline Germanwings crashed into the French Alps, killing all 150 people on board. One of the plane's black box recorders has been found near the crash site. The top U.S. military officer will be in Seoul this week for talks about increasing bilateral defense cooperation, but will THAAD be on the agenda? And Korea's GDP increased to 3.3% last year. The gross national income per capita also jumped compared to 2013, but it's mostly attributed to the strong Korean won. But we begin with the fatal airplane crash in Europe. An Airbus operated by Lufthansa's low-cost carrier crashed into a mountainside in the French Alps on Tuesday local time. All 150 people on board are presumed dead. Here's our Kwon So-ah with more.
Surveying the scene for a moment told the authorities all they needed to know. There is next to no chance anyone survived this plane crash in a remote part of the French Alps. With all 150 people on board the Germanwings Airbus A320 presumed dead, officials say the priority is to return as many victims' bodies as possible, identify them, and find out what caused the accident. One of the plane's black box recorders has been found in the mountains amid the debris. The jet was headed to the German city of Düsseldorf from Barcelona when it plunged from the sky midway through the flight.
I was doing some odd jobs behind my house when I saw a plane passing by. I said, it's a bit low. I saw the plane at a low altitude for 2 or 3 seconds, and as soon as I saw that, I sensed it was going to crash.
Aviation experts say it's a rare incident as the crash happened in the middle of the cruise phase, which is generally considered the safest part of a flight. The majority of air accidents happen during takeoff or landing. Germanwings is a subsidiary of Germany's flagship airline Lufthansa, deemed one of the safest in the world.
It's the first time in our 60-year history that we have lost a plane in flight, and we still have to digest that. The most important thing now is to be with those who lost people today in our thoughts.
The nationalities of those on board are still being confirmed, but officials say most came from Spain and Germany, and many were from Düsseldorf, including 16 teenagers. German media reports that a number of Germanwings flights have been cancelled after the accident, as crew members have been refusing to fly. Reports have suggested that staff were concerned about a repair that was performed on the plane the day before it crashed. But the airline insists the repair to the nose-wheel landing doors was not safety-related. German Chancellor Angela Merkel is scheduled to travel to the crash site on Wednesday local time. She said the crash had left Germany, France, and Spain in a state of deep mourning. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Korea's foreign ministry says there are no confirmed Korean passengers on the Germanwings flight so far. The ministry said it's continuing to reach out to its embassies in the region to check if there are any Korean victims. But it did add that considering various factors, including the route of the German airline, it's unlikely that there were Korean nationals on board. The chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff is on a trip to Japan and South Korea. In South Korea, of course, the news is whether he will talk about the possible deployment of a U.S. missile defense system to the Korean peninsula. Our Connie Kim reports.
Earlier this week, a senior U.S. official indicated the controversial Terminal High Altitude Area Defense would be part of the talks when Dempsey meets his counterpart Choi Yoon-hee on Friday. Seoul, however, dismissed speculations, saying it's not on its official agenda. The American missile defense system is highly controversial. Washington says the deployment of THAAD on Korean soil is crucial for regional peace, while other nations, namely China and Russia, have expressed strong objections. Embarking on his trip to Korea and Japan on Tuesday, General Martin Dempsey said the U.S. is making progress on an integrated air and missile umbrella defense system with Seoul and Tokyo. Dempsey did not elaborate further, but his trip is seen as a push for more three-way missile defense cooperation between Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo. Other topics up for discussion at the talks are the transfer of wartime operational control from Washington to Seoul, response options against North Korea's provocations, and Seoul-Washington joint military exercises. While North Korea insists the exercises are a practice of war, Dempsey emphasized that the drills are important to ensure deterrence against Pyongyang. The talks are expected to continue when U.S. Secretary of State Ashton Carter visits Seoul next month for the first time since taking office. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
And Russia has once again expressed concern about the possible deployment of THAAD to South Korea, calling on Seoul to carefully assess the positive and negative repercussions. In a statement, Russia's foreign ministry said Tuesday that the THAAD deployment to the peninsula could complicate nuclear talks with North Korea and spark an arms race in Northeast Asia. The ministry added that it, quote, cannot help but be concerned considering the destructive nature of the missile defense system's impact on international security and strategic stability. Washington's position is that the THAAD system will enhance Seoul's ability to deter Pyongyang's nuclear and ballistic missile threats, as well as enhancing surveillance on the north. Now, tomorrow marks the 5th anniversary of North Korea's sinking of a South Korean warship named Chosun. The wounds from the incident have healed for many South Koreans now, but for families of the victims, it's a different story. Our Lee Ji-yoon tells us more.
Every year when spring is just around the corner, Park Byung-yu can't help but tear up. His son Park Seok-won was one of the 46 South Korean sailors killed on March 26, 2010, when North Korea torpedoed the South Korean warship Chosun. It was just last year that he was able to start storing away his son's keepsakes. Park has tried hard to move on, comforting himself that his son had given his life for the country. But whenever he hears fabricated stories about why the Chosun sank, he becomes heartsick.
North Korea keeps saying that it had nothing to do with the attack. But when will we be able to stop sitting and listening to their nonsense?
Like many families of the victims, Park wants the South Korean government to step up efforts to prevent further North Korean provocations.
What happened 5 years ago must not be forgotten, nor should it be distorted. The South Korean government must make sure that something like the Chosun sinking doesn't happen again by making North Korea take responsibility for what it did. If North Korea does something like this again, the ones being sacrificed are going to be our country's young soldiers.
Thursday will be a sober anniversary for people here in Korea. Thousands of people are expected to attend a memorial ceremony at Daejeon National Cemetery to remember the 46 who lost their lives serving their country. Lee Ji-yoon, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, North Korea says the U.S. fabricated the story of the Chosun sinking because it wanted to expand American influence in Northeast Asia. The North's military unit issued a statement at the truce village of Panmunjom. Now here's a direct quote. The incident was orchestrated by the U.S. out of its intention to maintain control of South Korea and Japan. The accusation comes, as we said, just a day ahead of the 5th anniversary of the sinking of Chosun. An international probe had concluded that the vessel was hit by a torpedo from a North Korean submarine, but Pyongyang denies any involvement in the incident. Now, Korea has officially urged Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to show genuine remorse for Japan's historical wrongdoings if he ends up giving a planned speech to the U.S. Congress. Seoul's foreign ministry says the Abe administration is probably aware of the attention and concerns shared by Korea and the international community over its understanding of history. The ministry added he should inherit the historical understanding of his predecessors and call on Japan to sincerely reflect upon its wartime atrocities. Abe is scheduled to make a week-long visit to the U.S. at the end of April. In the year 2012, for Korea was at its record high.
All of the day's important events close to home and around the world. Join Laah Hyun-kyung live from Seoul.
Shopping market thinks the true meaning of creation shines through. Korea's economic growth last year slightly improved from 2013 thanks to a rise in private spending and exports. The gross national income per capita also jumped to over $28,000, but the numbers don't always tell the entire story. Here's Hwang Ji-hye with the details.
The Bank of Korea says the domestic economy expanded 3.3% last year. That is 0.4 percentage points higher than the previous year. The central bank attributes the growth in 2014 to a rebound in facilities investments and a steady increase in consumption and exports despite a drop in construction investments. Output in the construction sector grew by a mere 0.6% last year, while that of manufacturing went up by 4% and service by over 3%. By quarter, however, the Korean economy is on a downward spiral. The on-quarter growth, which stood at over 1% in the first quarter, slowed to 0.5% in the second quarter. It then marked a slight pickup in the third quarter to 0.8%, but soon sank to 0.3% in the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter growth also marked the slowest pace of growth since the first quarter of 2009, when the country was hit by the global financial crisis. Korea's gross national income per capita last year jumped around 7.5% from a year ago to over $28,000. But the rise is also attributed to the strong Korean won trend rather than an actual increase in the country's purchasing power. The central bank says the local currency strengthened by nearly 4% against the greenback on an annual basis. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
In an attempt to tackle the nation's snowballing household debt, the government has introduced a new program allowing mortgage borrowers to switch to low fixed-rate loans. Now, yesterday was the first day local banks took applications for the program, and as you can imagine, the banks were busy with people. Shin Se-min has the story.
The so-called relief loans introduced by the Financial Services Commission on Tuesday drew an astonishing number of applicants to local banks. In just a day, more than 20,000 applicants transferred a total of some 4 trillion won, or $3.6 billion worth of mortgages. They're all trying to manage their household debt by switching to the new mortgage rates, which are between 2.5 to 2.7%, lower than the 3% range previously offered. This opportunity to switch to a lower rate loan isn't available to everyone. The program targets lenders whose fixed-rate mortgage-backed loan is less than $450,000 or those with mortgage property values of little over $800,000. In addition, the applicants must be clear of repayment delinquency records for the previous 6 months. With the new mortgages, the Commission is hopeful that household debt will stabilize as they allow debtors to steadily pay back loans over a longer period of time. The massive shift to the government-initiated mortgage program showed that many Koreans are struggling to restructure their household debt amid the ongoing sluggish economy, a matter that policymakers have dubbed a time bomb for the Korean economy. Korea's total household debt rose over $500 billion in February from the first month of the year, surpassing the 1,000 trillion won mark, or $950 billion last year. But concerns as to how the government would handle the ballooning household debt are still there. The debt has been growing steadily since Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan loosened the real estate and loan regulations last year. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
When hiring new people, the first qualification most Korean companies looked into was the applicant's educational background. But that may change as state-run firms are planning to put more emphasis on skills and experience rather than what looks good on paper. Our Son Jung-in has the story.
Yang Jae-hoon was hired at the Korea Cadastral Survey Corporation last June after 2 failed trials. His 2 years of working in the company's internship program and 3 job-related licenses were not enough to get the job because of his low English scores. But after the company adopted the employment system introduced by the government, his efforts were finally rewarded.
At that time, I had to take a test on common knowledge and English and not so much on my related major. It may have been an easy test for some, but I had to go through a difficult time back then.
The National Competency Standards divides categories for more than 800 jobs and specifies how much skill and knowledge is required to work in that field. It also provides a standard to evaluate the competency of the applicants. With the adoption of the system, job applicants will no longer need to worry about building up general qualifications such as high TOEIC scores that are unrelated to the job they want. And for companies, it helps them hire rookies based on their competency.
The employees that we hired based on the NCS were well prepared to be put in the field right away, and they carried out the job well.
The government plans to gradually expand the NCS system to reach all the state-run enterprises by 2019. Among some 300 public companies in Korea, 130 of them, including KEPCO and National Health Service, aim to hire 3,000 rookies based on the system this year. Experts point out that if they don't want this system to become another mere requirement for job seekers, schools and universities should focus their education on practical vocational skills. 손정인, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics is cozying up with Microsoft, seemingly putting their past legal disputes behind. The two tech heavyweights have forged a deal that will pre-install Microsoft services on Samsung's Android-based mobile devices. Our Won Ji-hyun reports.
Samsung Electronics plans to have Microsoft services and applications pre-installed onto its portfolio of smartphones and tablets starting the first half of this year. Samsung's new Galaxy S6 smartphones will be equipped with note-taking application OneNote, OneDrive data storage, and video chat application Skype. They will also come with an additional 100 gigabytes of free cloud storage for 2 years through Microsoft OneDrive. Microsoft's flagship software programs, Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, will also be pre-installed on Samsung Android tablets. Users that purchase Android devices through Samsung's business-to-business sales channels will be able to purchase one of 3 versions of Office 365, Business, Business Premium, or Enterprise that come along with Samsung's Knox security solution. Samsung says its goal is to meet the ever-evolving needs of both consumers and business customers and give them more power to discover new mobile experiences. The Korean firm adds that its latest partnership will offer users the mobility they need in their personal and business lives. The move comes after the two giants settled a lawsuit over Android patent licensing last month, and analysts see it as a prelude to more deals in the future. Some also say it could be a blow to Google, as Microsoft's apps may eventually replace the Google software that's already loaded on Samsung devices. Won Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
Korea's ICT and industry ministries have unveiled plans to invest over $5 billion into fostering new growth engines. One area with great expectations is the market for drones. Our Kim Min-ji has more.
Korea wants to boost its presence in the global market for unmanned aerial vehicles. After the U.S., it was the second country to succeed in developing tilt rotors, which allows for vertical takeoffs and landings for aircraft. Even though it currently ranks 6th in the world in terms of drone technology, domestic regulations have been holding it back from gaining commercial footing, but that's about to change.
Korea's been behind because there was a lack of demand, but with the introduction of drones in the private sector, we see great potential for growth. We are coming up with new eased regulations to spur the market.
This is just one of the industries that is being eyed as a potential future cash cow. The government plans to invest over $5 billion by 2020 on 19 future growth engines, including the robot and smart car industries, as part of its creative economy drive.
We plan to increase investment for R&D, ease up regulations that are hindering growth, and create sophisticated management systems to help new tech industries become the pillars of economic revitalization.
The plan includes other burgeoning sectors like the Internet of Things and fifth-generation networks and is expected to be finalized in April after a review by governmental bodies and experts in the private sector. 김민지, 아리랑 뉴스.
Now, one of the many ways that helps us understand history better is studying the art of a particular time period. On that note, our Im Yuni joins us today with a look at some works from the Chosun Dynasty. Good afternoon, Yuni.
Good afternoon. Right. So if you want to get a better sense of the Chosun Dynasty, you can do so by looking at art, such as their lacquerware box, which they are known for, beautiful inlaid with mother of pearl. But you could also look at some of the paintings, as some of the Chosun Dynasty painters have gone on to be some of the most legendary painters in Korea's history. So take a look at this next report.
One of the most precious treasures from the Chosun Dynasty, lacquerware inlaid with mother of pearl. The shimmering works of art were most commonly made during the Goryeo and Joseon dynasties, and few authentic relics remain in Korea.
The historical trend was to use motifs to make memorable paintings and drawings that can be appreciated in the future.
The Horim Museum has recently gathered a collection of 90 pieces of Joseon Dynasty lacquerware, and now they're on display for the people of Korea to enjoy. Across the river, another museum is offering a look at a different aspect of the Joseon Dynasty's art culture. These timeless paintings open a window into the peaceful and serene settings. Works by legendary artists such as Kim Hong-do and Chung Sun pave the way for modern and contemporary painters such as Cheongjeon Lee Sang-bom and Seongjong-byun Kwon-sik.
Cheongjeon Lee Sang-bom's works are similar to something you would see from a camera's angle. On the other hand, Seongjong-byun Kwon-sik's works transform the scene.
30 masterpiece paintings, done by artists of different styles and from different periods in time, come together for this unique look into Korea's historical paintings.
I think I do recognize some of the painters' names.
Right.
Of course, Kim Hong-do, of course, is a very legendary artist.
Right, so this exhibition is very special because it was actually put together by some collectors who over the past 60 years went around and looking for some of these very rare paintings. Now, a lot of these artists are very familiar to Korea and to the Korean people, as they are some of the most legendary artists in Asia, in fact, and they are really considered some of the top artists there.
Right. And speaking of lacquer box, I mean, last year, wasn't there news about the Goryeo Dynasty lacquer box being returned from Japan to Korea?
Right, so big news on the art front. So that particular lacquer box was considered only one of 8 to still be known to be in existence right now. But with the other Joseon Dynasty lacquer boxes, now these are very special as well. They're inlaid with things like abalone, mother of pearl, even ox bone sheets. And so some very interesting works there. And you can see this at the exhibition. They really do lay out a series of different, you can see the boxes, you can see the little fans and all the different types of tools and household furniture that they put the lacquerware into.
I think people are mostly aware of mother and used to mother of pearl, but not really used to seeing a lacquer box with abalone.
Right, you'll see
so
a
that one will
there,
be
right?
really
you can
interesting.
See all of them there.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Uni, for joining us today and sharing this story with us today.
You're very welcome.
Hello, I'm Michelle Park here with the latest weather forecast. The cold spell that has stopped spring from coming has finally passed. Now, the morning was still a bit cold. However, it turned out to be a mild afternoon. Now, daytime highs are also expected to rise above the seasonal averages here in Seoul and for most of the regions today. However, spring being a transitioning season from winter to summer, always remember the temperature gaps between the mornings to nights. Now, due to the influence of high pressure front, we can expect us to be under clear sunny skies, although dry weather continues to sweep the nation. Today, more regions surrounding the capital and even the southern regions have upgraded to warnings. Now, with that in mind, let's have a look at the readings for today. Seoul will peak up to 15 this afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will top to 16 and 14 degrees. Moving over to other regions, Jeju Island gets up to 13, Dokdo hits to 10, while Mount Keungang is sunny at 4. Well, that's all for now. Michelle Park and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Michelle, for the updates. That's a wrap from us at this hour. I'm Laah Hyun-kyung in Seoul. Another edition of Arirang News with me coming up at 4 p.m. Korea time.